Nakasugod na ka? Gigibaya. Ikaw na bay.
Oh, wala tra kog PowerPoint nimo.
Wait lang ah. Sige.
So today we will be reporting about ethics and mysticism. Mysticism is often viewed as belonging to the class of undefinable, too subtle for the human mind to categorize into clean-cut, man-made, man-made definitions. And mystic e- mystic experience is often described by mystics themselves as indescribable, in inexpressible in words. But there seems to be always some essential, mystifying element common to all the varying accounts and interpretations of mystic experience. It is a yearning of man to be united with the divine. So mysticism is like trying to describe something that's very hard to explain. People who have mystical experiences often say it's like something beyond words, but even though it's hard to put into words, there's something really important that all mystical experiences seem to have in common. A strong desire for humans to connect with something divine or sacred. It's it's like a deep longing to be close to the divine, whatever that might mean to each person. Next. So according to Christian ethics, first firstly, man seeks his own perfection which he can find only in all perfect being, the boundless good. Uh,
Yes, sir.
ab- the absolutely
Balik ko yung Ramiro.
ul- the absolutely ultimate end of human
Okay.
activities is found in bliss, beatitude, the
Mahuman
position
ko pa na rin.
in summum bonum. Thirdly, the ultimate norm of the morality of human acts is the divine nature, the divine pattern or model of for human action. And lastly, that the two are inseparable as means and end. It is absolutely necessary that we lead a good upright life, as demanded by ethics, in order we can be united with all the Holy One. Striving or for ethics the only path to union with God. Next. Sunod ba?
Sa dali. Duma. Kuan, dagka ayo.
Morality and mysticism. Morality requires may nawala. Morality requires the constant observance of the moral law. Such observance of the moral law is oh, moral law or obedience to the same requires that the will of the subject be in constant conformity with that of the lawgiver. In all his actions, he has to say, not not my will, but yours. The supreme law must prevail. Likewise, according to Plato, morality consists in the constant imitation of the divine exemplar. Now, habitually and constantly modeling one's action, one's life to to the perfect model naturally leads to a closer and closer and eventually perfect likeness. And hence union or identity with the perfect. Perfect morality means perfect conformity, hence unity of the human and manifest in the moral law enshrined in man's conscience. So basically, being moral means following the rules of what's right and wrong, but it's not just about following rules. It's about wanting to follow them because they're important. Plato, an ancient philosopher, said being moral is like trying to be a be like a perfect example like God. So when you act in a way that's good and right, you're kind of becoming more like that perfect example. And the more you act like that perfect example, the closer you get to being like it. So perfect morality is when you're really good at following those rules, and it's like your will and what's right
Uy, kulang
become
sa ko.
one in the
Next, ano
time.
yung live eh? Kulang sa ko.
Sunod ba? Sige, next na. Further, according to moral philosophy, the absolutely ultimate end of all man's volitional activities is beatitude in God. And all men naturally seek perfect happiness, which is found only in being united with the perfect good. Mysticism, like ethics, is thus universal as mankind. It sound it ay, it is found at all times, in all places, in all religions of the world. As a matter of fact, if there is anything in which all religion on earth agree, despite their differences in many ways, it is that man longs for his own well-being and happiness, which he knows cannot be fully satisfied in this life, which is we. Sunod ba? So the differ difference between morality and mysticism. There is, however, one striking difference between the two. Its ethics is normative, while mysticism is not. While both refer to God as their ultimate goal, ethics prescribes rules of action to be followed, while mysticism is a free way. So, ethics is like a set of guidelines telling you what you should and shouldn't do, like a rule book for being a good person. But mysticism is different. It's not about following rules. Instead, it's like a more open and free path to reaching a connection with something divine, like God. So while both ethics and mysticism aim for the same ultimate goal, of connecting with the divine, ethics gives you rules to follow, while mysticism lets you find your own way there. Next. Different ways towards divine union, the Christian way. Christian mysticism finds its noblest expression and exemplification in the lives of the saints, aptly called the heroes of our moral life. As stated earlier, a necessary prerequisite to the mystic journey towards union with God is to lead a good, holy, upright life. Given this prerequisite, Christian mysticism provides several special ways by which man can unite himself with God. Next. This is the following. First, by receiving God in Holy Communion, wherein He becomes, by supernatural assimilation, the very food that the communicant eats. By worthily receiving the sacrament, he is raised to the rank of divinity. He is made a participant of the life of the true in God, sharer of the divine nature. Second is meditation and contemplation of the divine truths. Third is constant imitation of the divine model. And lastly and foremost and above all, love. Next. Union through contemplation. Meditation of the divine truths is another means employed by the mystic to attain union with God. For for in the meditation and contemplation of the divine varieties, the human mind, so to say, thinks the thoughts of God and thereby shares in the divine mind. And in the perfect stage of meditation, as in beatific vision of heaven, the human soul participates in the very nature and life of God. The the mind is one with the mind. So imagine sitting quietly and thinking deeply about really important truths, like what we believe about God. Mystics do this to try to connect with God. When they meditate on these truths, it's like they're thinking the same thoughts as God, and they feel like they're getting closer to God's way of thinking. In the most perfect meditation, it's like they're experiencing a taste of what it might be like to be one with God, to share God's nature and life. It's like they're saying, "Wow, I'm just beginning to understand how amazing and beautiful you are, God." And there's a sense that what they're experiencing is so incredible that words can't even describe it. So this topic will be
Hoy!
presented by my co-report.
Oh, imo asa. Basahan na lang ka. Oh,
Madunggan ang kain.
ang dali ah.
Ayun ra.
Oh, ay, ra kayo. Ino na ko ga CR ka?
Mystic prayer. Another Christian approach to divine union is through mystic prayer. This approach is described by Santa Teresa de Avila, one of the greatest mystic of all times, and her greatest work, The Interior Castle. In this work, she recounts directly her experience of mystic union attained through mystic prayer with God. According to her, the soul of man is an interior castle in the innermost sanctum of which resides the blessed Trinity and likewise the soul of the soul, the true self of very individual person. The figure used her finds support in the words of the Bible, know you that you are the temple of God and the Holy Spirit resides in you. The opposite way, which is the mystic way, is the divest, disentangle, disencumber, free himself from all attachments to his false selves so that he can move towards a return to his true self and there find God. The seven chambered castle of the soul of which Teresa speaks are the different stages of perfection, sanctification, the different degrees of closeness or intimacy with God involve the soul's dialect movement towards divine union through mystic prayer. These degrees of divine intimacy may likewise be viewed as the different stages of purification or liberation from bodily, earthly, worldly entanglements, the impurities, and the imperfection of the soul, which bar the same from entering into union with the all pure, all perfect, all holy God. While Teresa's mysticism is in common with other types of mysticism in that it makes God the goal and ultimate end of mysticism, it is stamped with the most distinctive and unique individuality, while in most brands of mysticism, particularly the Oriental, the individuality of a person is absorbed or lost or annihilated in uniting itself with the universal. The individuality, according to Teresa, is not lost. On the contrary, it enhances itself and prefers itself in its union with the perfect. Love and unselfishness. Since according to John verse 1 to 4, God is love, and the very nature of God is love, then if we love, we are like God, and the more we love, the more God like we became. If we love perfectly, then we are perfectly like then to and identified with God who is love. For perfect likeness equates with identity. By love or by loving, you are made children of God and participants of His divine nature. But love means transcendence. Love is never selfish. It always shares its goodness with another. The lover never keeps his love of himself. Love transcends the narrow shell of the ego, the limited orbit of the self. What it means to be unselfish. Now that does it mean to be unselfish? To be unselfish is to be your true self or to return to your true self. This sounds paradoxical, so let us resolve the seeming antinomy, ay, antinomy or contradiction by explaining the term self. We see and distinguish between two selves in the life of human being: the true self as made by God, centered in God and distinct for God, and the false self-centered, self-seeking, selfish self tending to separate self from God. The the true self is the true original innocent state of man as a child of God, especially the soul of man, which according to Christian teaching is the throne of God, the Holy of Holies, the innermost sanctum of the Holy Spirit. At least in just a man that is one in the state of grace. This idea is based, as we already said in the biblical passage, I know you that you are the temples of God and the Holy Spirit dwells in you. A similar view is expressed by the German mystic Eckhart when he wrote, "The core of my being is the core of God, and His core is mine." Unfortunately, because of earthly desires, distractions, and distortions of the true self and the mind of heart of man, man tends to go out and usually goes out of himself, his home, to attach and eventually to objectify or itify and identify himself with the objects, the earthly goods and creatures that he inordinately loves or fixes his heart on. He thus loses or tends to lose his true identity and destiny as a creature and child of God. In making things now evolve around his false self rather than around his true self centered God, the absolute center of all things, man sets himself apart and against God. To be unselfish, to be unselfish, to be one and unite oneself with the one means one has to detach oneself from anything that gets one apart from God and make God the very center and absolute owner of his soul and all things as he should be. In other words, he has to unself himself of his false selves to be his true self, his soul, the seat of God. In this way, God would really be in him, and he in God. The core of his being would be the core of God and conversely. Oriental mysticism. It is the most interesting and striking to note the similarity to this Christian concept of divine union with that of Oriental Hindu and Chinese mysticism. The Oriental way is that of unselfishness, since love means unselfishness from both the Christian and the Oriental viewpoints. Then, by simple substitution, we can arrive at divine union by being unselfish. Unselfishness, desirelessness. According to Oriental philosophy, particularly that man's highest good and happiness is to be found in the attainment of union with all pervading ultimate reality, Brahma. and the only way to attain such union is to be unselfish, desireless. It is the false self, the seat and the root cause of all earthly desires, which individuates indi, individuates man, then thereby separates from the universal, the all-embracing, pervading reality, and these selfish desires therefore make him miserable and unhappy. Likewise, according to the highest form of Bhakti Yoga, the millennia-old mystical philosophy and art of India, mortal being can perfectly be united and identified being with being by divesting himself of all selfishness, by perfect liberation of the soul from all material and earthly bondage and obstacles. Chinese mysticism. The great Chinese philosopher and mystic Lao Tzu has a very similar idea of mystic union contained in his book Tao Te Ching. Tao may be translated as the way, heaven, God, word, but I take and understand Tao as conceived in his said book of poems to be equivalent to our concept of God, the eternal law, enshrined in the true original nature of man. The dominant theme of the poems Lao Tzu in Tao Te Ching is that reality is one, and that in order to be happy, one must be natural, one must live in accordance with his true nature, which is one with one, the one in whom all things are one. Thus, mystic union, according to Lao Tzu, is attained living naturally by simply being what you really are in your original pristine nature, by nature one with the one. Lao Tzu teaching is often misconstrued to advocate complete inactivity, effortlessness, and the futility of all strivings, pursuits, and aspirations, and accordingly, his teachings are falsely and wrongly claimed to be in, inimical to progress and ambition and in favor of the status quo. Confucius or Confucius, one of the great Chinese mystics and one of the greatest teachers of mankind. Confucius made the Gen law love the central point of his mystic philosophy. To find the central clue of our moral being which unites us, the universal moral order, said Confucius, is the noblest human achievement. According to Confucius, the universal moral order is reflected in the life of the moral man. Confucius wrote, the life of the moral man is exemplification of the universal moral order. The life of the virtuous man is the contradiction thereof. The gen, the livable but irresistible, inexorable. Nothing is more real than the law, invisible to the eyes, impalpable to the ears. We cannot in any moment of our existence escape it, according to Confucius. The book of songs which Confucius quotes says, "The hawk soars to the heavens above. The denizens dive to the depth below. We may climb to the highest mountains or go down the deepest mines, yet the law of gravity is there everywhere. Analogously, whatever we do, wherever we go, all our actions, even our most secret thoughts, are all subject to the universal moral law." Another great Chinese mystic and philosopher, Moti, thought, universal love for all men without exception, premising his doctrine of love on the existence of kind heaven God, whose very nature and law is love. Difference between the two types. From the foregoing exposition of the two branches of mysticism, Oriental and Christian, we see that both types of mysticism agree in that union with the divine is the ultimate end of love, the essence of beatitude, and man's highest good or perfection. According to both, selfishness is the great stumbling block or obstacle to divine union and therefore should be extirpated, must give way to self-denial and self-love as a means of achieving the same. It is interesting to note here, however, one essential point of difference between the two. Christian mysticism is of a personal type in contrast with that of the Oriental, which is of non-personal type of relation with the divine. In this Christian type of man-God union, man's identity and specifically his personality is not destroyed but rather enhanced and perfect by participation in the life and nature of the three persons of the Holy Trinity God. As we already explained, connection with Teresa's mysticism, further, man is not only an individual but he is also and specifically a person, a thinking and free willing individual. Because of his higher spiritual nature of man and he can be intimately united with God without losing his human and personal identity. And that's all for this topic. And thank you for observing us and listening. Thank you and God bless. Napa mo dara? Mana?
Sige.
Salamat. Salamat, Lise.
Oh, bye-bye, bye-bye.
Ay, sir. Ay, Rika, salamat. Thank you very much. Buyers.